Oops. Vamos a empezar aquí. Y hola, hola, Cindy. I see we have Cindy in her car. Oh, goodness. Hola, Cindy.
You're on a road trip, Cindy?
Estás. Oh. Estás en tu carro, ¿no? Ah, sí, claro. Ok. A veces los parientes. Ok. Muy bien. Bueno, entonces, buenos días, buenos días. Espero que ustedes estén bien. I hope you are all well. Y vamos a practicar mucho hoy con varias cosas. We're going to practice with a couple of things. I have a beginning point and an end point. If we don't get to the end point, that may have to be the start of next week. We'll see how it goes. Okay, vamos a practicar con simplemente con hablar, just with talking, more talking about pictures. Again, this is going to be the kind of thing where it's perfectly okay for you to talk about what is happening, what is going to happen, what just happened. Any of those are going to be okay. I had forgotten to put my little helpful signs up here. You're going to have 3 choices. And I need to type those in. I meant to do this last night. Se me olvidó. I forgot. And then I got interrupted by little javelinas here this morning. And then we'll take a look. Okay, a ver. Bueno, vamos a practicar. We're going to begin with this. Just talking about the pictures, and I'm leaving this little prompt up here so that you know there are 3 ways you can go with this, okay? Once you get into your groups, you can just take the verb and conjugate it in presente. You can talk about what's going to happen, what isn't happening now in the picture maybe, but what will, with ir and a and an infinitive, or we can talk about something that just got done, but we don't need a real past tense. We can take acabar and conjugate acabar es regular. That's the regular one, right? Acaba, acabo, acabas, acaba, acabamos, acaban, and use de an infinitive. And notice these little structures, if you choose not to use just a single verb, if you use the 2 verb combination, we need a between the 2 verbs with ir. We need this little word de in between the form of acabar and the infinitive, okay? So those are going to be your 3 choices as you move forward. And you'll see these pictures when you go into your rooms. I'm going to try to get people divvied up into some breakout rooms here. Para que sepan, just so you know, I'm going to try to also move on from there. We will, oops, aquí. After we're done with that, we are going to take the same pictures and move on, go into something a little bit more difficult. And what we will try to do there is take the same pictures, but use those little pronouns like me, te, nos, le, and les, to talk about the same activities, but oops. I just hit a wrong button. Hang on, I just totally messed up getting my room set up. Oh, goodness. Okay, hang on. I totally screwed up. Now I've got to try to get I've tried to get my commands back. All right, let's try this again. All right. I have messed up my breakout rooms. Excuse me. It does not like a button I pushed. Oh, and I have to wait 35 seconds. Okay. And we will attempt to use some indirect object pronouns, maybe to talk about the same items. I haven't decided. It kind of depends on how we go from there. We might do that together as a big group. But the first group I want you to do just as smaller groups talking. And as soon, I need about 10 more seconds. 10 seconds is forever when you're waiting to clean up a problem you had. Let's take a quick look at a fun thing while we're waiting for me to get that control back. This is a fun thing that Mark found. Wow. This is a tweet that Mark found. And wow, why can't I get this to go into a smaller screen? I don't quite know. Anyway, I can't get it to scroll over either. Uy, ¿qué pasó? This was a little tweet that you got, right, Mark? And it was, it had some English and Spanish, but I bet a lot of it you'll be able to translate. Well, if we can move it over. Se estima. Wow, that looks reflexive, doesn't it? But it's not quite reflexive. Not quite. The se estima means it is estimated. It is a way of doing a fake passive voice. It is estimated, meaning we're not really talking about a human being, but, we're talking about a big situation here. It is estimated that para 2050, by 2050, habrá más de 1,5 millones de personas más en Arizona. Estamos preparados. It is estimated that by 2050, and when you peg 2050 as a deadline, we use para to indicate this is a deadline date. Mm-hmm. It is estimated that by 2050, and you can't see the habrá, I'm sorry, it cut off, there will be more than 1.5 million people more in Arizona. Are we prepared? Y aquí, ¿puede el valle sustentar a 1 millón de personas más para el año 2050? Can the valley sustain? Can it handle that many people? Okay. Bien. Oh, great. I got my Zoom control back. Now we're going to get people in there. Perdón. Bum, 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 bum.
I could add the media and sports teams and some, various others that tweet in Spanish. The media often, the local media, they tweet both in English and then in Spanish, separate tweets. But if you get a Spanish tweet, most of them, when you open it, there's a little link that says translate this tweet. And so I like to just sort of see how far I can get before opening up the translation and kind of see what I could do or what I couldn't do.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Okay. Now we had some fun. Gracias, Marcos. Thanks, Marcos, because that your little tweet gave me a chance to get my control back with breakout rooms. Okay. We're going to move now into talking about the pictures. Okay. After we're done with this, we're going to add on to it an extra little layer of those indirect object pronouns. And then once we get done with that, if we have time left over, if, we're going to talk a little bit about parts of speech and how you can interpret words or change words to use them in different ways. But how far we get with that today, I do not know that last bit. Once you hit your join button, I'll be able to send you the pictures into your Zoom rooms. And I've got the prompt to show you the 3 different ways: presente, present, futuro, y el pasado. The 3 different ways you'll be able to talk about them. Let me get that share button going. Okay. Bien. And I hope you're seeing your buttons. There we go. Jenny, I know you're trying to connect. It's just taking a little time. Sometimes our controls take a little time. That's okay. Está bien. Okay. Wow. A ver. Don't you ever feel like you hit one wrong button and then your controls stop you from doing everything? Which is what happened to me. We're going to give people about 5 minutes on this one. I think that's going to be enough. Okay, bien. Alguien tenía que salir. Somebody had to leave. Got one group of people gone. Okay. Hay alguien ausente. Got one person absent. A ver. Okay. Oh, hola, Liza. I need to see if I can send you in. Oh, you know what? I will sign you in. You won't be able to get a lot done this session, but next. Yeah. Yeah. Perdón. So, you're going to be going in and kind of coming out. It's okay. Está bien. There we go. Or you don't have to join if you don't want to. In about 30 seconds, I'm going to bring everybody back. So,
Okay.
quizás no. Yeah, maybe you don't want to. That's the way it goes sometimes. Está bien. It's okay. The next session, you'll be able to participate. We've got 2 more pictures to talk about after this one. You'll recognize them when you see them. And okay, we're going to begin to close down the rooms. They've got about 1 minute to finish up and come back in. So people will come back in at different times. Oh, okay. Maybe I should have given them more than 5 minutes because they're not popping back immediately. Sometimes that happens. That's my little clue. I'm like, ooh, maybe I didn't budget quite enough time.
We went on to the
Yes.
next one, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't-
Well, okay, hang
Yeah.
on. Okay. Bien. Excelente. Okay. Muy bien. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Any question about some sentences you formed or sentences you want to do? Cindy, dime.
Oh, we had a question about I said, El hombre compró un boleto de avión, but we
Sí.
weren't sure if that was the right word for ticket. We had questions.
Palabras para ticket.
Yeah,
Sí.
we weren't sure if boleto meant that one for the airplane ticket.
Yeah, okay. There are different words for ticket.
Yeah, Mark was really
And-
good at it, but
Yeah. So let me just show you a couple of ideas of different words you might hear related to ticket. And some of them, it's not a huge deal. But if you're looking about an airline ticket or a train ticket or, something for transportation.
okay.
Yancy, boleto is a good word. Boleto. Some people use billete.
Oh,
That's also fine. You and depending on where you're traveling, depende un poquito. I have people. This is I'm not quite sure if this is Spanglish or not. It must be tiquete. Tiquete. I have spoken with people who have used tiquete. I native speakers. I have. So and some of them well, and I think that was with my Mexican contingent of folks that I know. So, that might be kind of a Spanglish thing or a thing, once you get us near that border, there are people who do borrow words. Okay. Like we borrow words from Spanish, same deal. But boleto, billete, tiquete, if you've got a ticket that is like for a concert, for a show, for a movie. It is more common to hear this word, la entrada.
Oh, wow.
A little more common, but not like you won't hear, but you will not hear boleto for a ticket to get into a show. So for people who have a ticket to get into a concert, a show, a movie, a fair, you're at a big outdoor fair, it's often more commonly termed la entrada. And you get the idea from that. Entrar is to enter. And this is actually, this is one of the words that falls into the category I wanted to save till the end of, but it's kind of a preview. I wanted to save for the end of class or beginning of next class. But entrada is built on that verb that you do know as entrar, right? Entrar means to enter, to come into, to go into. And entrada is a noun we form out of that. Entrada can mean an actual entranceway, a physical entranceway, or in this case, a ticket. Okay? Bien.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias.
Es buena pregunta, Cindy. It's a very, very good question. Okay. Hay otra pregunta. Is there any other question you have off of that or something that you formed that you weren't quite sure of? ¿Algunos ejemplos? Any examples you want to share?
Pregunta, por
Sí,
favor.
sí. Tomás, dime.
It's some pronunciation. I was trying to use the word counter in picture 1 and 2. They were working across the counter, and I looked that up and I saw it as contador, C-O-N-T-A-D-O-R. Is that right?
Contador. Contador is more like somebody who voy a demostrar. I'm going to demonstrate. Uy, espero que puedo demostrar. ¿Dónde está mi ejemplo? Uy. Oh, por ejemplo. No pueden ver. Okay, you can't see very well. If I have an adding machine,
Okay.
and I am a counter, or if
Gotcha.
I am an accountant, if I am an accountant, it's contador, because contar has two meanings. Hay dos definiciones, ¿sí? Contar es hablar de una historia larga. Contar means to tell a story. Contar is also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Es calcular. Okay. So contador is more for somebody who does that activity. But mostrador is often used. Mostrador. M-O-S-T-R-A-D-O-R, mostrador. And we could also take that as one of our words that is built on yet a different word, mostrador. Mostrar means to show, and at a counter we show things to people who want to buy. Okay. Buena pregunta, Tomás. Sí. En el mostrador, or por ejemplo, hay empleados, there are employees, hay empleados y los empleados trabajan en el mostrador con los pasajeros, with the passengers. ¿Sí? Trabajan la mujer en el mostrador, the lady at the counter. La mujer en el mostrador trabaja con los pasajeros. The lady at the counter works with the passenger.
Okay.
Buena pregunta. Okay. Hay otra pregunta.
Pregunta, is smiling a reflexive verb? To smile?
Oh, sonreír. Sometimes you hear it used reflexively, sometimes not. Not always. Sonreír. Sí. La cajera, the cashier, sonríe. She smiles. Yeah. Sonríe.
Okay.
Yeah. Sonríe a los clientes. She smiles at the customers.
Sonríe,
Por ejemplo.
okay.
Okay. Bien. Buena pregunta. And that's one of those examples, Danita. If you said se sonríe or sonríe, and if somebody in their region did not use it reflexively, they wouldn't think anything of it. Like, oh, I don't know what she's talking about. Yeah, it's not like sentarse, sit down, that everybody uses that as reflexively blanket. Okay. Buena pregunta.
Gracias.
De nada, de nada. Hay otra pregunta. Is there any other question?
I have one question.
Sí, Charlie.
For the airline counter, cambio, does that refer to change in the monetary sense or change in the altering sense also?
Both. Los
Both.
dos.
Okay.
Los
Okay.
dos. Ok. Es muy común hablar de cambio. Ok. Por ejemplo, estoy en un Oxxo. I'm in an Oxxo. Oxxo is their 7-Eleven. Ok. Estoy en el supermercado. Bien. Y tengo que pagar. Sí. And you they only owe you maybe 5 pesos back from what you paid, see? Y aquí el cambio, here's your change, see? Or you get on a bus and boy, you better have change because they won't give you change. Often, very often, I don't know if any of you have actually experienced this, but it is a common thing in Mexico, I have to say. Go not just with bills, but with coins. El cambio. Because si no tienes cambio, es muy difícil. If you do not have change, it is very, very difficult to pay for things. People will not break bills. We break bills all the time and then they give you change. El cambio, change, that actual physical change, the coins you get back. Sometimes they don't have a lot of change and it is not as common in all places for you to be able to get change easily. Or like on a bus, you better have the coins. Don't hand the guy a great big bill because he won't be able to break it for you. So cambio son las monedas. They are the coins, the physical coins. Okay. El cambio is also the change, ¿sí? Oh, por ejemplo, hablamos mucho en las noticias de la televisión, en los periódicos, se habla del cambio climático. We talk a lot about climate change. So that change, muy abstracto, ¿no? Muy abstracto. That kind of cambio is the same word, cambio. Qué buena pregunta. Okay.
Okay. Gracias.
De nada. Hay otra pregunta. Did you feel you were able to use whichever thing you wanted to? Presente, just conjugating a verb versus future or past. Were you able to do that? Okay. Any questions about that or no?
No, for the change itself. So you can also use it for the change the date and everything. Like to change the date on the ticket. You can use the cambio as well. A cambio.
Like to change the date on your watch or something like that.
On the ticket.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But then, okay, Juanita, this is an important thing. Wow. And this is tying into what I was saving to the end, but that's okay. Está bien. When we have that English word change, the word change is a noun. The word change is a verb. And it's the exact same word in English, right? But in Spanish, when we change it into a verb, I want to change my ticket, right? Or I want to exchange dollars for pesos, dollars for euros, okay? Then it becomes a verb, and we have to use it as a form of cambiar. Not cambio, but cambiar. Yeah. So then we have to use it as necesito cambiar, voy a cambiar dólares por pesos. I'm going to exchange dollars for pesos, por ejemplo. O Tengo que cambiar mi asiento en el avión. I need to change my seat, exchange my seat for a different seat. I need to get a different place in the plane. Tengo que cambiar la fecha de mi vuelo. I need to change the date of my trip. Tengo que o voy a cambiar la fecha de mi viaje. I'm going to change the date of my trip. So it depends on how we use it. Cambiar es un verbo. If change is an action, if it's an activity, it needs to be a form of cambiar. But if we use it as the noun, it becomes cambio. Always cambio. Cambio does not look at who wants the change. Cambio is a thing, and it is a masculine noun. As a noun, cambio exists as a masculine noun. It just does. Okay, but as cambiar, it is a verb, and a verb, of course, is not masculine or feminine. It goes into its forms. Cambio, I change. Cambias, you change. Cambia, he or she changes. Cambian, they change. Cambiamos, we change. Based on the fact that it comes from an AR verb. Okay?
Okay, but you said that I try to understand this. So you say voy a cambiar. So but then if I said that this is for myself, like, okay, I changed the date on my watch, for example. So I can use cambio.
Sí, exacto. Okay. So let's go back to this. Para ilustrar, para ver el cambio de cambio, to change, see the changes of change. El cambio is just change. It might be coins, it might be that abstract, right, thing of change. It can be either one of those, but cambiar is an AR verb. As a verb, it indicates the activity of change or exchanging as well. Exchanging, okay? Like, you know, you're exchanging size 8 shoe for a size 7.5 shoe, okay? Por ejemplo, you want to trade something for something else. So, cambiar. Y las formas de cambiar. Here, cambio. Como forma de cambiar, as a form of cambiar, indica que yo hago la actividad, la acción. See? So here, cambio, you have to listen for how it's stringing together with the other words. See? Por ejemplo, el cambio climático, el cambio climático, noun. El cambio climático intensifica los huracanes. ¿Ok? Entonces, el uso de cambio. El cambio climático intensifica los huracanes. Climate change intensifies hurricanes. Okay, por ejemplo. And there we're using it as a noun. But notice, I might just say cambio la fecha de mi viaje a Portugal. I'm changing the date on my trip to Portugal. See? And cambio, you have to listen to how it's connecting to everything else. And look, I don't even have yo cambio because people are going to usually ditch the word yo. You know that already. See, ya saben. You guys already know. But we have to listen for how all those words connect together to realize, are we talking about the noun change or I am doing this cambio? That is the only thing you can really say about that. Bien? Okay?
Sí.
I have a question about the when you going the countries. So The countries are masculine and feminine, right?
When you're bueno, Hillary, depende. A veces sí, a veces no.
So for example, if I say I'm traveling to Spain, do I say a España or I say
a
en
España. A España.
They're all when you're traveling to somewhere.
Oh yeah, when you're traveling to a place. Oh, this word here. Yeah. This word to, that just means to. Exacto.
Okay.
To, and then the place name, right? A España. A España. A Italia. A Inglaterra, England. A Francia. A Alemania. Al Peru. Al Peru. You will hear people, some countries get a little el or la in front of them, but not all. And I know, sí, muy confuso. Okay, por ejemplo, but that little thing of using an article, an el or la in front of a country only happens with I would say a smaller number of countries. And sometimes people kind of drop it. And I can't tell you why. They will either use it because they think it's very proper because it used to be kind of a universal thing, or they kind of drop it because they don't feel like it. So, por ejemplo, but a lot of countries get no el or la. España, Italia, Francia, Alemania, Inglaterra, Portugal, Austria, pero a veces, sometimes, Mexico, there is no el Mexico. Nobody says el Mexico, just Mexico, okay? Mexico, a ver, momento. Colombia, Chile, Bolivia. But sometimes you hear an el, and it used to be, and when you do, that means that it used to be kind of a stricter rule that you always include the article with some countries. You just had to know which ones. Over time, that seems to be dropping little by little, poco a poco. So, por ejemplo, it used to be el Peru, okay? I had a teacher who was so old-fashioned when I was 14, but that was... we won't say how many years ago that, pull out your fingernails if you got that wrong. But people are dropping that nowadays. Sometimes you just hear Peru without the el. So I'm just telling you, but you may hear it. Por ejemplo, la India. Why would we need la with India? No sé, I don't know. Pero sí pasa. Even this one, los Estados Unidos. There are people who drop the los. Vivo en Estados Unidos. So, in other words, I think really this is one of those things in way language is changing. These little countries, I wouldn't go to a lot of effort to memorize which ones use el or la, because poco a poco, little by little, that is starting to kind of be dropped by a lot of people. It is not always blessed by the linguistic police that is called La Real Academia Española, because they do have language police that cover all the countries, but there are people who do it anyway. Just like we say gonna anyway. It's not considered standard English. Oh, I'm going to go to the store, but people say it all the time, right? So same kind of thing. El Canada, but you hear people using just Canada. So don't bust a brain remembering it, but if you hear it, just remember, oh, it's one of those ones that some people use the article.
That is so weird.
Así es. But yeah, it is so weird. It is so weird. But do know, Estados Unidos, a lot of people drop it. So it's standard to say, vivo en los Estados Unidos. I live in the United States. But people also say, vives en Estados Unidos. Do you live in the United States? And they drop the los. It happens. Así es. Es buena pregunta. It's a good question, though.
And hopefully never that other word for the United States. Who can remember that?
Oh, the
There's
America thing?
There's that. I can't even remember it.
The nationality word, the nationality.
North America,
Okay.
no.
Okay, let's look at that. Estadounidense. This is the one you mean, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, nobody likes that word. Okay. This is a word that is considered quite proper. And I will be honest, it is quite commonly used.
Oh,
So you have to be prepared to hear it. Also, there is another variation of this, and I didn't really realize this, but I guess some people in Mexico are starting to drop the O sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I mean there.
Can you pronounce
that is
that one
a
again,
horribly
please?
long estadounidense. The way you're going to hear it is this speed, estadounidense. Okay. But when you got to say estadounidense, automatically you're thinking supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Okay. And that is a normal reaction because it is a very long word, but it comes from Estados Unidos. Okay. So the way they say U.S. citizen, and look, how tedious is that to say in English? U.S. citizen. It's it's pretty long in English as well, is estadounidense. So the way you use this to say your nationality, okay, is estadounidense. It is all one word. So it's a good idea to break it into maybe 2 words and maybe even slower than that, because you won't need to break it into syllables to be able to pronounce it. You do. Estado maybe is not such a brain buster. Okay.
No.
Estado, because it's like Estados Unidos, but Estado unidense. Unidense. Break it apart. Unidense. Do know, especially in Mexico, there are some people, you will hear them sometimes drop that O. Some people just kind of drop it. If you were spelling, that would be considered substandard, not correct. But people, because they're talking fast and it's a very long word, sometimes drop that O, especially in Mexican Spanish. So you may hear, and I even saw somebody print it out this way a couple of weeks ago. I was a little bit surprised. Estadounidense, because it is such a ding dang long word. You may hear people dropping this little letter O, especially if they're from Mexico. Don't be surprised if you hear it that way. Estadounidense. Okay. So estadounidense, estadounidense, some people drop the O, para que sepan. Yeah. And Canada, it's that ense thing too. So Canadian, okay, Canadian is canadiense. But boy, that's easier to pronounce, canadiense, than estadounidense, right? Again, that is not the country, but the nationality, Canadian, canadiense. Some nationalities get this little thing tagged onto the end, right? We're used to that O ending a lot, like Mexicano, Italiano, Colombiano, Chileno, Argentino, but some get ense, canadiense, estadounidense. Some nationalities just get, Francés, French, Alemán, German, right? So it kind of depends on the nationality you're talking about. Okay. Buenas preguntas. Wow. Good questions you've got today. Algo más? Anything else before we move on? Or no? Otro ejemplo? Otro ejemplo, no? No? Okay. Okay. Vale. Bueno, lo que vamos a hacer, siguiente. Next. Let's look at the same thing. We're going to talk about different pictures. I will show you ahead of time. which pictures we're going to talk about next. We'll send you into your rooms again. See, tengo que engrandecer. I think I need to make these a little bit bigger. Para que puedan ver, so that you guys can see, para que puedan ver, sí. Hay muchos detalles. Wow, we've got a lot of details with these pictures. Okay, and we'll come back and talk about this later. Aquí tenemos una boda. Here we've got a wedding. Tenemos una boda y sabemos porque la novia tiene puesto un vestido muy elegante de color blanco, ¿no? Es una boda, una celebración de una boda. Y aquí tenemos turistas con un mapa, porque es el mapa, ¿sí? 4 turistas que, bueno, van a hablar. You guys are going to talk about what they are doing. Okay? Bien. And we'll send you back out. 5 minutos, 5 minutes enough or no? Or too much? Sí.
Perfectamente.
Exacto. Ok. Muy bien. Vamos a ver. And off you go. 5 minutos más. Y tengo que calcular. Y tengo que enviar la foto. And I need to send the photo to all the rooms. Cinco minutos para hablar de la boda del grupo de turistas que recorren una ciudad. Okay. Okay. Vamos a reunirnos aquí. Bien. Bien, bien. Excelente. Y vamos a ver.
We didn't have a picture.
You didn't have a picture?
No.
Oh.
We just had your screen. But there was no picture.
But we knew what they were from before.
Yeah, we knew.
It didn't hinder
Okay.
our progress.
Ay, perdón. Okay. I might have hit a wrong button. Wouldn't be the first mistake I made in my life. Certainly won't be the last. Okay. We'll leave the picture up when we talk about this. Gracias. Perdón. Disculpen. Forgive me. I thought this was going to be a slam dunk, but apparently not. Okay. Vamos a ver. Okay. I thought I had sent that picture in. I know I hit the button, but I may have had the wrong screen pegged. So there we go. Bueno, vamos a hablar. Let's put the screen up since apparently that didn't work like I thought I did. Okay. A ver.
Marilyn, pregunta, por
Sí,
favor.
sí, dime.
So in the first picture, we were trying to understand what is the verb for to toast.
Oh,
but we know
toast.
solid.
Sí, sí.
Salud.
Hay un verbo
Salud
para
would
to
be that you're-
toast.
Salute would be that you're exchanging the glasses and saying toast, but I mean like
Sí, eso es. Sí. Okay. Qué buena pregunta. What a good question that is. La palabra para to toast no es tostar. Tostar is used for food. Okay. So there is a verb tostar, which sounds like in English. Wow. Qué práctico, how practical that is, but it does not mean what that kind of, it is not that kind of toast. To toast, es brindar. Brindar. Yeah. To toast is brindar. Van, por ejemplo, los invitados, the guests. See, you can see the pictures now, right? Everybody can see?
Sí.
Pueden ver. Okay, pueden ver. Bueno, sí. Por ejemplo, los invitados van a brindar a los novios. Los invitados van a brindar a los novios. See? The guests are going to toast
through the couple.
The couple, the newlyweds, the newlyweds. See,
Ellen, is that one of those that would change easily to a toast? Would it be brindo, or is it one of those that
es
doesn't
regular.
work?
That's a regular verb. So brindo, I'm toasting. See?
No, I meant to change it from the verb to the noun, to make a toast.
Oh, to make it a noun. You don't hear it made a noun very much. There might be, qué buena pregunta. There might be such a thing. Voy a ver. I'm going to take a quick look, but I always hear it as a verb. I've never heard it used as a noun. Brindar. Oh, okay.
No.
Sí. Un brindis. As a noun. The thing that is a toast, all right, is brindis. Momento. Brindis. And that's kind of an odd formation for the noun form. That's not that's not the general way one makes a verb into a noun. It's a very special form. Un brindis, el brindis. Noun brindis. Por ejemplo, the example they give is, me gustaría hacer un brindis por los novios. I would like to make a toast on behalf of the couple. ¿Sí? Me gustaría hacer un brindis. So brindis is the noun form of that. Okay.
¿Qué es un brindis en español?
Un brindis, that is the noun form of brindar.
But ¿qué es un brindis en español?
Oh, en español, es
Salud.
una descripción de la palabra brindis. Bien, sí, un brindis es un breve discurso. It's a short speech.
No. Cuando tomo un vaso de vino, ¿qué es un brindis cuando tomo un vaso de vino? What do you say?
Oh,
What
lo
do you-
mismo, the same. Sí. Oh, you mean like what you say when you toast?
Sí.
Okay. Quite often just salud. Salud. Sí, salud. Yeah, what do you actually say? ¿Qué decimos en realidad en la situación de un brindis, in the situation of a toast? ¿Qué decimos? What do we say? Con frecuencia, salud. Salud. See? Salud. Or they might say, a los novios.
to
the bride and groom.
to the bride and groom.
Yeah. And notice novios can mean boyfriend, girlfriend, right? The couple. It can also be used for newlyweds. It is also frequently used for newlyweds. A los novios, right? Depende de la situación. You could name the people in your toast. You could just yell salud. Yeah. Any kind of happy words work in that situation. Okay. Muy bien. ¿Hay otra pregunta o no?
Wait, since you're talking about that one is just for the word for the newlyweds. So the new couple. So, but when the couple itself is called las parejas, right?
There are different words
like
for
what do you call like a couple as a husband and wife, not a newlywed anymore?
Not a newlywed.
So is it still la pareja?
It could be la pareja, the couple. It could be el matrimonio. Matrimonio means both marriage, like the institution, and the married couple.
Okay.
So it could be la pareja, los matrimonios, or el matrimonio, los matrimonios for the two of them. There it would have to be really plural, los matrimonios, meaning people who are joined in marriage. See? So yeah, there are different, some different ways to talk about them. Bien, okay. Otra pregunta.
Gracias.
De nada. ¿Alguien tiene una pregunta? Somebody has a question? Sí?
I do.
Okay.
This is Cindy. We were wondering, how do you say shake? He looks like he's shaking this champagne. I know this is off target.
Sí.
And then we had another
Sacudir. Sacudir.
Is that shake for everything?
Shake.
For everything?
Yeah.
Shake anything.
Yeah, sacudir.
Is shake. Okay.
But quite often, you might hear, you might also hear agitar. Agitar,
agitate.
which looks like agitate, right? A little bit. You might hear that. Agitar. But you know what? Quite often, sí, y podemos, van a agitan a la botella antes de abrir, right? We'll often talk about abrir, opening up the bottle, okay?
Right.
Entonces, algunos ejemplos son, por ejemplo, sí, van a celebrar la boda. They're going to celebrate the wedding. Brindan. They toast. Brindan a los novios. ¿Sí? Acaba el novio, the bridegroom, acaba de agitar la botella de champán.
Gracias.
He just shook up the bottle. See? Acaba de abrir la botella. Acaba de abrir la botella. He just opened the bottle. Okay. Podemos cambiar. Sí. Okay.
Pregunta.
Sí.
Could you also say rociando champagne? So he's spraying champagne.
Rociando. Sí, se puede. Sí. Rociar es to spray. Okay. Es como rociar, ¿sí? Rociar así, bien, sí, con algo así, bien. Es lo mismo, same thing. Muy bien. Hay más. Any other comment? Hay otro comentario. Any other comments on these or examples you want to share?
I have one. So la gente va a tener dolor de cabeza por la mañana.
Van a tener dolor de cabeza. They're gonna have a
headache.
Let's talk about that a little bit. There are different, and why would they have a headache? ¿Por qué? Porque beben demasiado. Sí, demasiado. Okay. There are different, van a tener resaca. Resaca is a word often used to express hangover. Resaca, or cruda. Cruda is also used for hangover. Hangover has different words in different countries quite often, but resaca and cruda are often used for hangover. Sí.
Menudo. Por la cruda.
Sí, ok.
So
Bueno,
how are you going to say it? So van a tener resaca?
sí,
Okay.
sí. Hay verbo resacar. Tengo que investigar un poquito. No, no es. No, they don't have no verb listed with that, resacar. Just resaca, ¿sí? Ok. Bien, bien, bien. La segunda foto, the second photo, what are hay comentario, any comments on that second one? O preguntas, hay preguntas.
I use this one. La familia va a hacer una búsqueda del tesoro.
Ok, bien. Sí. Excelente.
Is that correct? Is that correct sentence?
Sí.
Okay.
Sí, bien, bien. I want to point out one. ¿Cómo se dice to point?
Señal,
we're going to teach
señal,
you. Señalar. Excelente. Sí, señalar. Un señal would be a sign. Yeah, un señal, a sign, but señalar means to do that with your finger. Señalar. Señalar is to point at or point out. Señalar. Es un verbo regular. Por ejemplo, el hombre a la izquierda, the man on the left, el hombre a la izquierda señala la plaza central del pueblo. He points out the central plaza in the town.
Señala.
Por ejemplo, ¿sí? Señala. ¿Ok? Bien. O, por ejemplo, podemos hablar de los turistas van a visitar un viejo catedral. Por ejemplo, ¿sí? Van a. O, por ejemplo, los turistas acaban de investigar o mejor, even better, recorrer el pueblo. Acaban de recorrer el pueblo. Recorrer looks like rerun. Correr is to run, ¿no? Recorrer means to tour. So think of touring as running around town, right? Recorrer es tour, like tooling around town in your car, okay? Or just walking all over, exploring all that. You could say explorar el pueblo. You could say investigar el pueblo, mirar el pueblo, look at the town. But when you mean looking at the town, mirar has a very static idea. Mirar means to look at, and it has kind of a static, non-moving feel. But when you say look at the town, like you're checking out the town, you're touring, that the best word for that, one of the best words is recorrer. And that means you're walking all over, looking at all kinds of stuff. Bien? Buenos verbos son señalar, point out, y recorrer. Bien?
Question then.
Sí.
So if I want to say the map is showing many views or vistas, showing isn't mirar.
No, showing will not be mirar. Mirar is what people do with their eyes when they look at something.
But the map
kind of
is
examining it. But if the map shows, there are different ways you can say that. El mapa, por ejemplo, el mapa indica los sitios de interés. The map indicates points of interest. See? Sitio just means a place, places of interest. I could say el mapa muestra, shows.
Yeah.
El mapa muestra los sitios turísticos. Tourist sites, tourist places. So there are a lot of different ways you might say that. You might just use, if you really, like, let's say you have a major brain fart because you're just feeling hassled and hurried. El mapa tiene los sitios turísticos. So there are different verbs we can often use, not all the time, but in this case, there are different verbs we could use to talk about the map shows this stuff. The map has this stuff right on it, right? But mira is an actual action that a human being does with their eyes.
Okay.
Okay? Buena pregunta. Yeah. Mirar is to look at or to watch, but it does not indicate the idea of shows. Okay. Muestra means shows. Okay. Bien. Hay otra pregunta. Any other question? No? Okay. Let's go backwards a little bit. We're going to come back to these pictures, but I think we're going to do this as a large group. Vamos a ver. Let's talk a little bit about these words. And Charlie helpfully pointed out to us last week that it's not just le and les. A lot of times we add a layer on top to any of these communications, whether we use the verb by itself, okay, or whether we use ir, a infinitive to say it's going to happen, or acabar de, and the infinitive is talk about something that just happened recently and now it's over with. Often to layer up, we pile an extra layer of meaning on with these things that are called indirect object pronouns. And it's not just le and les, although a lot of times you hear this because the le and the les indicates that one person receives that action or a group of people, they receive that action. It does, these little verbs do not indicate that someone is doing the action. They say somebody is receiving the benefit of whatever that activity or action is, okay? And it might not just be le or les. It might be me. It might be te. It might be nos. And if you're in Spain, they add this extra thing, which is the plural of te, which is us, you guys, okay? But in Latin America, to say you guys, they're always going to use les, okay? Para que sepan, just so you know. That us is limited only to use in Spain. And these, you might hear them pop up all the time. Sometimes they get tagged on to verbs. Sometimes they come in front of verbs, okay? And the short explanation, quite often when you hear it tagged on, it might be tagged on to infinitives. It might be tagged on to ando, yendo, but in many cases, when you hear people just chit-chatting, it's tagged onto an affirmative command. That means somebody saying, hey, go do that. Pay him. Tell her. Take it. All right? Those are commands. Somebody's telling you, do this activity. All right. So when we tell somebody in an affirmative, meaning a yes, go do it way, quite often these words get tagged onto the end because that's what happens with affirmative commands. So that's why if you're at a sporting event, you'll often hear dale, because it's something that somebody says to cheer on whoever is kicking the ball, throwing the ball, catching the ball, you know, doing some kind of athletic activity. Dale can even just be kind of a phrase for saying, oh, go on, you know, go for it. It's the go for it command. Dale, dale, right? Dígale. Tell him, tell her. Those are commands. So you often hear a le tagged onto the end. And when that happens, when it's tagged onto the tail end, it's the little caboose on the train. You know that often, not all the time, but often it's a command. It's somebody telling you go do something. All right. But
Question?
sí.
Dígale, is that interchangeable with decir?
It is a form of decir.
That's okay.
So, por ejemplo, decir is the verb that diga comes from. Now, sadly, except for that letter D, diga doesn't look anything really like decir, does it?
No. I must have the wrong congregation on the.
Okay.
Because...
Here's what happens. When we talk about a fact, like somebody is talking, somebody is telling something, somebody's telling something to somebody, just a fact. It's digo, dices, it gets a go for yo and just for the yo. Now, this is kind of crucial. So digo, D-I-G-O, and I'll write it here so you can see it. Digo is the yo form in presente. All right. So, por ejemplo, te digo todo mañana. I'll tell you everything tomorrow. Te digo, to you I'll tell. Te digo todo mañana. I'll tell you everything tomorrow. And that just means it's a point of fact. Te digo todo. I'll tell you everything. But if we change it into a command, we take that yo form, we ditch the o off the end of digo, and you hear it as diga.
Okay.
That's a polite command, meaning you're talking to somebody using the usted form, right?
So is that just, that is just when you're tagging on the pronoun on the end?
We tag the pronoun onto the end of that command.
Okay.
So dígale means tell him, go do it. Speak to that person. You're not speaking to them now, but I want you to go over and tell him. Dígale. If you're talking to a bunch of people, you're saying, hey, you two, go tell him. It becomes díganle. Díganle. Right? We have to make it a plural command. So you may, díganle is you guys. Yeah. You're giving a command to more than one you, more than one you. Bien. My keyboard changes all of those punctuation and type things. You guys tell him or tell her. And notice with that le, we don't really know if it's a him or a her, except from context or adding on an extra phrase with and then the names of the people. And that may happen. It may not happen if they think it is obvious. Depende, it depends. So, okay, these are commands. Dígale, dale, they are commands that you hear a lot just on the street, chit-chatting.
So I'm sorry, just one more question.
Sí, no, está bien, Mariana.
So this dígale, the A is not in the present, in the congregation for the present tense, right?
No, this word here, diga, that is not, it is not present tense. here's what happens to decir in present tense. Digo,
Dis-
dices,
dice,
dice, dicen for a bunch of people, and decimos. Muy irregular. It is super irregular. This in decir, sadly, is a very common word, but it is a very irregular conjugation in a lot of tenses. So that E turns into an I, except not in the nosotros, because remember, nosotros is outside the boot or shoe. So the nosotros form never gets that E to I stem change. So decir changes the E to an I, like servir changes an E to an I, like vestirse, to get dressed, changes an E to an I. Okay, like pedir, to ask for or order, changes an E to an I. So you get digo, dices, dice, dicen, and then nosotros is outside the boot or shoe. So it goes back to the E that's original from decir.
And
so
then
those are all these forms. Digo, dices, dice, dicen, decimos. They all say this thing is happening. People are actually doing this.
Right.
Blah, 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 blah. Okay. It is really happening. But what happens is with a polite command, in order to form it, to create a command where you have none, we have to go to the yo form of the verb, which in this case happens to be digo.
Yeah.
We say, oh, I'm going to get rid of that oh.
Okay.
And now, decir is an IR verb. I'm going to add on an ending that looks wrong.
Okay. That's what I was having trouble with. Okay.
Decir is an ER verb. You would think it should have an ending, like dice, like dicen, en or e. You would think it should have that. But commands swap endings.
Okay.
So ER verbs get kind of endings. And AR verbs get kind of endings. That is just what happens with commands.
Okay.
But we have to...
could we have another whole session on positive and negative commands?
We can.
Okay.
That's okay. We're probably going to have to break that into like 2 sessions, because commands, I don't want to, but before I open that whole can of worms, commands will depend on if they're affirmative or negative, and then whether they are informal or formal. And so it becomes kind of a twisted big can of worms to open up. But just know you'll hear that le hanging on to the end. Okay. But here's what happens with most of the time with that word, with those words, which are called pronouns, me, te, nos, or le, or les. Most of the time, they will come in front of a verb. With commands, they're attached if they're affirmative. But with a regular old plain question or statement of fact, they will come in front of the verb. So we're going to use our pictures to show you some examples. Because I'm running short on time.
Marilyn, before you go to another slide, I've been scratching my head for a week looking at this. Why is that como le puedo ayudar, not te puedo ayudar?
Te is just the informal. ¿Cómo te puedo ayudar? But if somebody's being very, very polite and they don't know you from Adam, they may use that as le. And they might even use it as lo. But that's yet another thing. So, ¿cómo le puedo? Let's just take it as le, because you hear it this way often when people are being very polite. ¿Cómo le puedo ayudar? How can I help you? Or it might also mean, how can I help him? But probably they're looking at you saying this. ¿Cómo le puedo ayudar? If they're being super polite. Le, okay? ¿Les gusta este vino? Do you guys like this wine? These words le and les, they're tagged on for commands, but normally in a statement of fact, they come in front of a verb. So let's take a look at what let's jump a little bit ahead. Let's jump a little ahead and talk about what kinds of verbs we pair these words up with. What typical kinds is we have to look at the kinds of verbs that do use the words me, te, nos, and then le or les. Okay. And even in English, I'm not very good with the transitive and intransitive verbs, but that's what that wades into. If somebody receives the action, this is where these come into play. The le and the les mean to him or to her or to you polite, right? So verbs that we tend to use these with are verbs like dar, because you give something, an item, to somebody. There's a human being somewhere on the end of that activity, not doing the action, but receiving the action, okay? Pagar. You pay some kind of monetary thing to somebody, and that becomes the me, te, nos, le, or les. Okay? Decir. You say something to somebody, to someone. Pedir. You ask somebody for something. Okay? Preguntar. You ask a question, you ask some kind of information, you ask that question to somebody, right? These kind of verbs like gustar and encantar, meaning somebody likes or loves. Encantar just intensifies that feeling, right? Comprar, you buy a thing for somebody. We could add lots of verbs to this. I am going to add one verb to this, because it's super helpful. Servir. Servir, you serve something to someone. To someone. So these little pronouns come into play, are used with these kinds of verbs. So whether we use them depends on the action that we're talking about. Really, okay? So, okay. Also note, it's always okay to put these in front of the conjugated verb, but, you know, there are situations where we tag it onto the end. There are situations where it will be redundant. Redundant. This is the last point I want to make before I give you a little assignment. Redundant meaning repetitive, which we take redundant as, in some cases, a bad thing, but it is not in Spanish. Le voy a dar mi pasaporte al aduana. I'm giving it to the customs agent. Okay. And naming the customs agent or the policeman or whoever it is who's asking you for that. Yeah. When it is not clear from context, we will add an a phrasal to further define specifically who you mean by that word le. That is frequently done in Spanish. It's okay. So often they'll say, I'm giving him my passport, and then you name who the him is. That is often done. Okay. But nobody, here's what I want to point out. You will never hear it without the word le. You'll never hear the a phrase without that word le. They won't drop the word le, the him or her. They won't drop it. Voy a dar mi pasaporte a la aduana is not super, it sounds a little off because it's got to be le voy a dar mi pasaporte. Or I can tag that le onto the dar. Voy a darle. I can also phrase it as voy a darle. I can tag it onto the end of the infinitive because I have two verbs, right? I can do that because I have two verbs, all right? I cannot tag it onto the end in something like this. It's where I only have one verb used. I can't tag it onto the end. I have to have it in front. Okay. So what I want you to go back and do, and I may add some extra items on, I want you to go back to these, and I'll tell you with the picture, I'm going to substitute in with the picture a verb I want you to use to create a sentence about these pictures. And I may add some extra pictures in. So, por ejemplo, I can tell you right up front, I want you to use servir with a le or les and talk about that picture. I want you to say, he's serving them champagne. Okay. Or he's serving them wine. Or I want you to use decir to talk about this guy in the plaid shirt. Okay. I'm going to give you like 2 or 3 verbs to talk, to create a sentence about each picture. And I want you to plug in a le or a les with those verbs to kind of prep for next week. Does that make sense?
Yes.
See? Bien? So what I want you to do, I want you to go back and look at those kinds of verbs. I'll send you that file again. And then I want you to go back and look at those pictures, and I may add in a couple of other extra pictures to give you more practice. And I want you to create an idea and talk about they're doing something for somebody. Okay, bien? So that you actually use the le or les. And I'll give you one example, one kind of softball example so that you see how that's done. Does that make sense? See?
Indeed.
Okay, I'll give you that. Did I give the whole group that video on how we change like a word from a verb into a noun?
Yes.
Okay, so you've seen that. We'll come back to that. But next week, I want you to work on actually creating some ideas. And you might put me in there as well, right? It doesn't mean you can't use me te nos, but I want you to kind of focus on those 2 words, le and les, a lot, because we'll be talking about the pictures. And I'll probably add a couple of extra things in. Okay, bien?
Bien.
Gracias.
Excelente. Okay, so you'll put that to use next week, and we'll see you then. ¿Sí? Nos vemos la semana que viene.
Adiós.
Excelente, gracias.
Hasta luego.
Nos vemos.
Adiós.
Cuídense.